Okay. Okay, it is 6 p.m., so we'll call the meeting to order. We do need a motion to adopt the agenda, and we do have an addendum.
When we talked, I'm getting a little older, sometimes I have to write things down. In case I forget something. We talked on May 12th, I messaged Lori, we're missing the agenda item for the social work, at least one social worker, or did I miss that?
That's going to be included in the ESSER approval, because that's one of the things that's in the ESSER plan.
Okay.
So it's not an individual item, but you're right, it is on there, it's in the ESSER
Okay,
application.
I just need that clarified.
Yep,
Thank you.
Okay, back to the motion for the agenda and the addendum. Did we have a motion on that?
Move to approve the agenda.
All right. Second. Okay. Moved and seconded to approve that agenda as printed with the addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 3.0, approval of minutes from the April 18th meeting. Any issues with the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Moved and seconded to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 4.0, consideration of bills and warrants. Any discussion items there this evening?
Make a motion to approve the bills and warrants as presented. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve those bills and warrants. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 5.0, hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move to 6.0, report of the superintendent of schools.
All right, May 13th, so last Wednesday, we had our retirement celebration, and we honored a group of people that have combined spent 159 and a half years dedicated to Parsons schools. So I thought that was a fabulous, wonderful gift that they have given to us. So Susan Dringenberg, James Ramsey, Dina O'Connor, Leah Newland, Steve Feenan, Kathy Hepler, and Rita Drisdale. We wish them the very best on their retirement. So May 14th, this Saturday, was high school graduation. I wasn't there, I was at Emily's at Wichita State, but I heard that it was a wonderfully attended experience. There were 74 students that graduated that day, and record time, about 45 minutes. It was pretty well attended, is what I understood. So that's exciting. Coming up next is not a graduation, it's a promotion. So on May the 18th, which will be this Wednesday, middle school have their 8th grade promotion at 6 o'clock there at the middle school auditorium. So folks are welcome to come out and join us for that. On May the 19th, that is the last student day for the 21-22 school year. Students dismiss at noon. So buses will run at noon, parents can pick students up, dismiss at noon that afternoon. Staff and teachers will be working on grades, grading finals, finishing those things up. May the 20th is the last teacher day, and so they're going to be doing inventory, finishing the grading, reflecting on how the 21-22 school year went, making some plans for 22-23. So we're looking forward to that. May the 30th is Memorial Day, and the district office will be closed.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Ray here? All right, moving on to 7.0, report on the May Tri-County Board meeting. Mr. Castle, do you have anything for us?
I have a few things. Most of the time was actually an executive session, but we did approve the IDA 6B application, the office calendar. We bought some some vans from two different dealers at the cost of $29,000 for one van and three at $28,500 each. And they're all older bottles, they're not brand new. Approved all the contract with Greenbush, approved Power School the contract, and the rest of the time was executive session for about an hour.
Okay. Any questions from Mr. Castle? All right, thank you. We'll move on to 8.0, letter A, the transportation update from our transportation director, Mr. Giefer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Glad you're here.
Prepared for you tonight a brief overview of how we've operated this year, some statistics on how many children we've transported. If I can get the technology to work here. So, Jonathan, I'm not seeing all my numbers.
He'll be coming from the other room, maybe.
All right.
Well, they do have it all printed, because
I've
this,
got it on paper.
right, and this was sent out to you earlier
Yes.
in the week, last week, so they do have it.
So I'm going to give you a rough overview.
I get hard copies.
The number of students that we had signed up to ride the buses was about 345 in the AM. That doesn't mean 345 students rode, but we had that many signed up to ride. In the afternoon, we had roughly 370. So there's more students that signed up in the afternoon than we did in the AM. So we've been able to handle everything with the buses we're running with. We have ran 3 route buses throughout the year. We have 1 extra bus that we use sometimes on activities, more so on routes, and I'll get into that in a little bit as to why we do that. We do have 2 special needs buses that we run here in town. We have a lift bus for the wheelchairs that we transport, and then we have a smaller bus that runs in town and out of town also. We do have an in-town special needs van. That mainly is transporting our younger students to the facilities. The smaller van, it runs to Independence daily, transports our behavioral students over to Independence. Our activity trip buses, we have 3 of those, and then we have 5 vans here at the high school that we use for activities also. As of 5/18, we have transported 245 activity trips. That is counting buses and vans altogether. We do have currently 10 bus drivers, 1 van driver, and 7 monitors. And we just barely get by with what we have. So I'm included in one of the 10 bus drivers also. We're not going to get all the numbers here, doesn't look like. So, Jonathan, can we switch my computer so I can get everything up?
Here he comes.
Yeah, go for it. Just thanks, you got my phone.
And I'm wondering if it's because the bottom of the projector is.
There we go. You see it? Okay, so I can get the whole screen up here now.
There we go.
You're looking here at the bus expenditures for this year, the year that the buses were built. And I'm from the beginning mileage is when we got these buses 3 years ago. I want you to see the total miles we've driven these buses in the last 3 years, and the maintenance that we spent on them, parts and labor. We put several miles on a lot of these buses. This P8 bus that we have highlighted here, it's our oldest bus. It's a 2014, and we've driven it the least. That's the 1 extra bus we use for a backup bus. If you'll see, the 11,249 miles we've driven is comparably lower to the rest of the buses except for P9. P9's the bus that we bought last June, I believe is when we got it. And if you'll go into the right-hand column, total cost, P8, we have spent more on maintenance than any of the other buses and have driven it the least amount of miles. And we are currently having some issues with it antifreeze odor is getting into the cabin of the bus. We're getting a lot of complaints from it. I've talked to the mechanic, and he said we just have to do trial and error, and he could see these $1,400 more put into it, trying to find the issue. Every other year, we have budgeted money for a new bus. The last bus was bought in the 1920 budget. We didn't spend any money this year. We have money budgeted for the 22-23 year. I would like to purchase a new bus, if the board would. And here is some pricing on one bus. There's from three different bids on it. We have a bid from Kansas Truck, Midwest Bus, and Midwest Transit. These are for a 2024 bus. This bus hasn't been built yet. And these prices right now, if I was to call them today, they wouldn't honor them because of inflation. I talked to Keith Dreiling at Topeka this afternoon, and he said that the manufacturers are putting what they call surcharges onto the bids because of the price overrun. I did get a quote on a 2023 bus that is already built, sitting in Georgia, Bluebird bus, and I apologize for the not being quite legible as I would like for it to be, but we can get a bus very similar to the last one we bought for $107,335. The last bus we bought, it came last year, but bought it in the previous year's budget, was $99,000. I did get a trade value on the PA bus. I think Mr. Ray had asked what the value of that bus would possibly be. Kansas Truck is offering us $21,420 for it, which I think is an exceptional offer. Other option is we could put it on Purple Wave, but I think that's a gamble. And usually when you sell a used bus on Purple Wave, you don't get near this much money out of it. Any questions?
I'm sorry, I missed the amount. How much could you get off of?
The 2023 that's already built.
No.
The trade-in.
The
The trade-in, I'm sorry, $21,420.
Any idea what they're talking about, the surcharges might be on those 2023s?
On a 2023.
Or
it's built.
2024?
2024, Mr. Dreiling, he wouldn't elaborate. The bus salesman, he wouldn't even give me a number. He just said that they're going up daily because of inflation.
And the thing is, none of them have been built yet.
2024s aren't built,
Right.
and you don't know when they're going to get built also.
So what Rick would like to do is, following that transportation plan where we do the rotation, is it rotate off of the fleet, P8, is that right?
Correct?
And then fill that with the bus that's already made on the ground in Georgia, the 2023, for $107,335, knowing that we have the money in capital outlay. We already have $100,000 earmarked in capital outlay, so we put back $50 each year, and we'd have the $21,420 trade-in.
Yes.
So that's his recommendation.
The trade-in, is it up to us to get it where it needs to go?
They would probably come get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure we didn't have to take it somewhere and it break down and have to spend a bunch of money on the way.
I hope not.
Okay.
The place where I would like to get the bus, which is Kansas Truck, the Bluebird dealer, I'm sure they would bring it. They brought the last bus
And then
last year.
take the other one back home.
Just take it back with
All
them,
right,
yes.
all right.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Giefer on this aspect? Okay, we need a motion then. We've heard his recommendations, so.
I'll make a motion, purchase the 23 bus.
Trade-in.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to purchase the 2023 bus as recommended by Mr. Giefer, trade-in P8 for the price stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Anything else for him? Okay, thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Item B, technology acceptable use and one-to-one policy from Mr. McGuire
And Mr. Peak.
and Mr. Peak. Yep.
Come talk to us.
Good evening.
Evening.
So in your packets, it's definitely in an order.
On page
So we
30?
have 33 and 34 in your packet is the one-to-one technology devices for students with the no tech fee. And then if you flip over to 39 and 40 is the technology devices one-to-one with the tech fee. So those are two versions of the same document. Everything else, as per kind of talking with Lori and getting it worked out, we wanted to simplify the student one for enrollment. So student is by itself and then staff is by itself now. We had a combined one, but, students and parents were signing stuff that
That was
didn't have anything to do with them, because we had them combined. So we have like a staff. It's not really a one-to-one to staff because we're not one-to-one to staff. Most staff have a device, but not all. So we have that document, then we have one-to-one for all the kids, the two versions, and then we have acceptable use policy staff, acceptable use policy students and parents. So that's what's from that 33 to 42 in your packet. So there's just kind of a misplacement of order just for those two versions of that one document. So we've put forth a tech fee version and a no tech fee version because it's basically up to the board whether you want to do it. Yeah, if you want to go
Well,
ahead and expound,
this year,
Lori.
there was a lag in determining whether or not we were going to charge tech fees or charge them. And so we charged them, but it was after enrollment. And so then it became very difficult in collecting those fees. Some paid, some didn't. And so that was why we wanted for them to talk right now to determine what it's going to be moving forward, because July the 1st, when our online enrollment is active, we want to make sure that it's correct. And so if the board elects to charge fees, we want for that to be a part of that so that we're ready moving forward.
And I believe it was 2 years ago, the board approved our previous one, and this is like 95% of the same. A couple of, errors for spelling and stuff like that, and just a couple of little changes on some of the things, so.
The cost is basically 75, right? For,
25 per
excuse me,
device.
25,
per kid,
25, and
max
then
is 75.
max is
Yes, all those
75 per
pricing
family.
would all be the
Yes.
same. It's just, we only had, I think, talking with Durden the other day, about 33, about one out of every three,
Families
like,
paid.
households that haven't paid it. So we basically have a enforcement issue or we have a policy issue. So we can either have it and enforce it, or this is a good time to get rid of it. We also kind of had a plan originally before COVID. Again, plans change. We were going to buy devices for a grade level every year, and then they kind of, as we go on, and then we could see, well, if we do that, then every 4 years, like at the high school level, maybe they could take them with them. That tech fee would help with that, because the tech fee basically almost one-to-one pays for repairs every year. But if we don't have its tech fee, I would highly suggest against doing that. So where we just have the same devices like we do right now, and then we'll have 1 year out of about every 6 years where we're going to have a very large bulk purchase where everyone's going to have the same thing, but students don't take devices with them when they leave or
Their senior
graduate.
year, yeah.
So
So,
$75, up to $75 for repair, correct?
yes.
Also, lost or stolen, full replacement, not a diminished value replacement. And then the last sentence, failure to turn in the device will result in financial and/or legal charges. What would those be?
This was all
It's the same as what we had
It was all from the previous one. I believe when we discussed, it was
So those financial charges would be that they would be carried over each year on their fees.
like a lost library book.
Right. And so then when it came time to graduate, according to policy, the board policy, if there are fees that are unpaid, they're not allowed to participate in graduation. That's a board
But they
policy.
still get their diploma legally.
Legally, they would get their diploma, yes.
But they
So
don't
what are
get
the-
transcripts sent or anything like
No,
that.
they do
Is
not.
a-
Right.
Is a tough deal. I mean, that's what happens to some
But
kids.
it's just a matter
So
of,
there aren't any legal charges.
well, if they've lost a device and we know the value of that device, we could turn it over to the Kansas Set-Off Program, which would then take it from their income tax. The district could elect to do that.
Which is, we had a discussion on this issue 2 years ago. It's pretty much the exact
right.
same thing as what we're talking about now, so.
It just becomes a matter of enforcing it. Are we going to collect it? Do our families have it to give?
All right, COVID put a lot of pressure on school districts to purchase computers, and got ESSER money to buy that. So this is all paid by the school district itself. Some of it came from federal money, and I'm still opposed to charges for charging a technology fee. That's my position. We're a district that we don't charge for textbooks, and to me, right now, those computers are textbooks.
They
to some
operate
degree.
very similar. You're
Correct.
correct. Very similar to a textbook.
And again, that's why we put this forward, so.
The big drawback would be if the kids the seniors can't take them with them, but who knows what longevity they have after that. But I don't think we have, everybody is so busy with everything anyway, and, every school secretary, everybody at the district office. And so I feel like Lou, I just think we should.
And they've increased Chromebooks' lifespan from 6 years to 8 years now. So if we bought them come freshmen, they'd have 4 years of life left when they were seniors.
Well, at least this class gets them.
And part of the issue is getting connected at different homes. Some people can't get connected.
Yes, I
You still
still
get-
believe we have wireless hotspots available for
yes.
checkout. We just have a very diminished number because we're not doing remote learning.
Right.
What would
So-
your recommendation be? Do you want to see a tech fee or not a tech fee?
I could really care less. I mean, Matt, are you?
I
It's-
think there's a huge plus in those seniors getting those Chromebooks when they graduate. So if we have to do a tech fee, it would be for, 13 years, $25 a year, and you get a Chromebook at the end that's worth, But maybe there's a large percentage of our seniors that don't need a Chromebook. I don't know.
Well, did you say they've moved it up to 8 years?
Yeah, so they could
Yeah.
get through college. If they
Yeah.
decided to graduate and go to college, they could get through college on it.
Right.
That's the big
So-
drawback.
You know, I guess in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to charge, and we could still give them a Chromebook. I don't know.
And that's kind of what Lori and I were discussing because of procurement the way it is. I have to order these things now. If seniors are going to take them with them, I need to order freshman class now because the devices we have are going to age out before that time. So just because we bought in bulk for COVID.
And we
So-
received a grant, EMINS, that provided a lot of
Yeah,
those.
at the middle school,
At the middle
yes.
school,
But the middle school was never
part of the deal.
part of the chain. It's the same way. The only thing that changed with that is this year they've been taking them home.
Right.
So.
Well, if we're not getting the money now anyway,
That is
A third.
correct. That is correct.
You're getting a third of the money, is that accurate?
About a third of the money. It's the same.
Partly due to not being at the very beginning of
Part
the
of
year.
it is due to being, we didn't do it at the very beginning of the year. And part of it is because, like with textbook fees, when we used to have those fees, there at that time, if you had a free or reduced meal, you didn't have to pay. And so people aren't used to paying a fee, and they receive a free meal, and they think, wait, I still have to pay a tech fee. So I think there's some confusion there as well.
So what would happen to these Chromebooks after a senior graduated? Would they get recycled to the freshmen?
Yeah, they all go into a pool basically.
And they all
Because we
get
have to, we're going through that process right now. Once everyone leaves, we have to figure out which ones are still functional. We try to tie it to the same kid if we can. But if there's a problem that needs repair that wasn't reported, all that kind of stuff, and we got to get them back. I mean, we have like.
So we do all that and then we recycle them.
Yeah,
So
we have
yes.
like, 20-something seniors that didn't turn theirs in yet too, so we got to go through.
What's the price for a Chromebook now?
The ones we get are about $300, $350, depending on what the cost of the license is at the time. The licensure kind of went up.
All right.
Do you feel like we could actually get 8 years out of a Chromebook that's in the hands of a teenager?
And it depends on if they're taking that one with them, then our structure would kind of change because they would be tied to that even more, even beyond the first couple of years, so. But again, if we're going to do that, then I need to buy now. So that's why we're
talking
here.
about $300. When you graduate 75 people, you're talking about $22,500. That just really doesn't bother me too much. Honestly.
Doesn't me either.
And they're not getting a new one. They're getting one that's used, so.
Well,
we're
and
having to
I'm not
replace
sure
it
what
with a
good
new
it would
one
do us
still.
to,
I agree.
Possibly, if they knew they were getting it, they might take better
take
care of
better,
it. but
yes,
I don't know.
exactly.
That maybe
Yeah.
not. So, board decision, but the number doesn't bother me.
But to
financially.
have that done under what we're discussing is they have to do a tech fee if
Yeah,
they
but I'm
want to
saying
take it
even if we
home.
didn't do a tech fee, there are other board members that were saying,
Give it to them
I was
anyway.
just trying to quantify
Yeah.
what that would cost us without a tech fee. It's not an exorbitant amount of money in our budget if we gave it to seniors.
Right.
And you wouldn't even have to give it to them all. I mean, some of them probably wouldn't take them if you gave it to them. So you could just say, if you want to take it, go ahead and take it. Some of them might just leave it.
Well, and there may need to be more high school level policy too on what if someone comes in just their senior year, or what if someone doesn't, little things like that too that we would need to, not necessarily get into district policy, but just figure it out, how to manage it. So.
Well, I got the call today, and my senior just came in the senior year. And so a secretary, I guess, spent today calling people. And I got the call today that Kendall needs to turn her device in. Kendall didn't know she was supposed to turn it. She's been here 1 year. She had no clue. So the device will be turned in.
But
Yeah,
it's-
no matter what this year, no matter what happens, we're getting all the devices because this
But
is
you got her
not, this
diploma.
meening
This
is not
is
in
what-
time since it's the
So we're
last
not,
week.
So
of
did
school.
she-
we're not following any rules.
Right, but
No.
did she pay the $75? Right, so
The
that's.
25.
Or the.
Yeah, 25.
And the-
Yeah.
Yes, so
Sure.
then there was no fee attached. So that's why she would get to graduate, because she'd already paid the fee.
Yeah, she paid everything.
Yeah.
We would have turned it in. We would have brought it to graduation if we
Well,
had known.
It was,
There's nothing.
And
new.
it's principals and secretaries, building administration, and,
Get busy.
it's a busy time of year too. So not everyone's going to turn theirs in on the right days, but
and it's
we
okay
try to
because
get the
school's-
word out.
Yeah, school isn't out, so we weren't expecting any of those. We'd like for them to be back by the end of this week, but we're still on duty.
But we've worked
through
with
next week.
principals of
Right.
the high school and the middle school, and we've got a schedule worked out. So that way we need at least a couple of days so we can see who hasn't turned in. That gives us a few more days of those students coming in to be
Right.
like, so we don't have to chase them down in the summer or drive door to door, so,
Which I have done.
If you,
which Lori has had to do, yes.
if you had to order it tomorrow, would we have the Chromebooks by August?
August.
Really depends. I can't answer that. I think it's a little better but I may not be able to get the exact ones I want. I may have to either upgrade to make sure that they'll get here in time, or that's kind of what happened with us with the staff Chromebooks, is we had to upgrade those because they had said, I have these on the shelf. Anything else is going to be a year.
They
So-
cost a little more, but,
Mhm.
yeah, so.
So
Procurement
unfortunately,
is
I
such an
can't.
issue.
And my vendors can't answer it either. It's when HP or Dell, they have this website that you click refresh on, and either they show up or they don't. So it's a wonderful world we live in for procurement right now, so.
Well,
And so for this year, we would have everyone just turn in their Chromebooks.
So we just need to pass this policy on the tech fee and on the use policy.
Right, to determine for next year what we're going to do.
Then we can deal with whether we're going to let the students have them at a later board meeting. We just need to pass a policy and a
Well-
tech fee aspect.
Right, and
With the tech fee and the repair cost,
Well, that's in here.
that,
well, I'd like to make a motion in regard to waiving the $25 tech fee and lowering the repair cost to $25.
But he's telling you it's roughly $75 to repair. So if you're gonna lower that to 25 and then you're gonna take out the 25, I mean, these kids that might not be irresponsible, you're essentially telling
It's not about
them.
responsibility.
It's, some of these kids, it is about responsibility with the repairs and breaks and stuff like that.
Mine, when I go to hire a call, it may cost me $25 to $50, not $75 most of the time. And we have people on board that can fix computers.
Ben, how much
And we're
would you
talking about
say
a
it roughly
$300
takes you to
computer.
fix?
Most of the breakage, because of E-mints, we actually we're in year 1 of 2 with white glove treatment, so we just ship them off
For our middle school.
for middle school.
Which is good, because that's where the huge amount of.
Yeah, they were breaking
happens.
4 a day at the beginning, and then to 2 a day, and then now they're down to 1 every 2 days, about. But on the high school ones, and those two, just the monitor is about $100, and that's what breaks
Most often.
95% of the time.
You shut a
You close
pencil
a
in it.
pencil or something in there, or you hit the monitor on a corner, and those are at least $100 per Chromebook, so.
Might as well buy a new one.
New one's $300, so.
We have a lot of families that are in need, especially with the inflation, with the way it is right now, $5 for a gallon of milk, $5 for gas. I understand your responsibility point of view. I'm looking at some families that can't afford some of this, and some of them are trying to be as responsible as possible. So are we fostering your responsibility? I hope not.
Okay, so we need a motion then. If you want to do a friendly amendment to the repair costs, go ahead and do it in your motion, and it'll either pass or it won't, and then we'll go back to square one if it doesn't pass. So how would you like the repair costs modified? And then right now, it's 75 or actual repair cost,
Whichever's
whichever's lowest. So if they're. Lost repairs exceeding total cost, full replacement cost, stolen, file police report, full replacement cost, what would you like to modify?
So even if, let me just throw a hypothetical. So we change this to $25, and if they do break the monitor, then we're charged $100. Then the student is responsible for the $100 fee, correct?
No.
No,
No,
you're saying if it's
75.
25. If you're amending it to 25, you're saying all they have to do is pay the 25, and then the district eats the other $75.
Or actual repair cost?
Well, that's if it's
Whichever
lower
is
than
lower.
the
Whichever is
75.
lowest.
So like if something broke and it was $55, instead of the student paying 75, they'd pay the $55. So we're
Okay.
charging them whichever is lowest.
And then if they don't pay the repair cost, they don't get a computer, correct?
That depends on the administration. Usually they go
Well,
about 2 or
I'm gonna
3
get that out on the
before they
table.
start doing it, so that's really up to the building. And the thing is, because they're like a textbook, a lot of times they're needed, but.
And they may have one that they can check out in the classroom, but
and
they're
they
not
do
able
that
to take it home.
sometimes as well,
That would
yes.
probably just go on their fee, as we talked about as they would go through, they'd still need to pay that.
And the fees then, by the time they're a senior,
Right.
could be quite substantial if,
We did that a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so Lou, what were you thinking then?
I'd like to waive the $25 tech fee, and I'll compromise on the 75, and I would say 50, up to 50 for repair.
Okay, well, right now it's up to 75, is what basically the way it reads.
Or less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
up to 75 is what
Up
it
to-
says for
right,
repair.
right.
Or if it's lost or repairs exceeding total cost, it's a full replacement cost. Are you going to leave that the way it is, or are you wanting to amend that
No, I don't
too?
want to do that. It should be at some diminished value.
Okay, well, I don't know how you quantify that though, Lou.
right, because if we
It's-
have to replace it with a new device, it's going to cost, there wouldn't be.
Look, the car wreck I had 2 weeks ago wrecked a brand-new car. With the insurance companies, they have a diminished value. They have a formula that they use.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have a formula. I
Well, we
agree
don't-
with you.
We don't have the people to do all that though, Lou. That's
I
my problem
agree.
with that.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't want to pay full price for a wrecked car.
Well, don't lose or break your device.
Correct.
I mean, that's my answer, honestly. I don't want somebody losing it, you know. I mean, there does have to be a little bit of responsibility with the device, even the ones that,
All I'm
their
saying-
parents are buying.
Okay, all I'm saying is, not full price, maybe half price?
Okay. All right, that's what I'm asking you. I'm
Right, that's
asking
what I'm
you what
saying.
your friendly amendment is. You said $50 or actual repair cost, whichever's lowest. Now
Right.
we're down to the lost repairs, and you said half replacement cost is
Right.
what I heard you say.
That's
Then
what I
what about
said.
if it's stolen? File a police report and half replacement cost? Is that what you're amending?
I don't know. I've looked up some of the other school districts, and they, when a police report is filed, they don't charge.
Okay.
I don't know how that works, but I'm just saying, that's what I've read on some other school districts.
Okay, so when they file a police report, then they don't have to pay it all.
Right.
But if they don't file a police report and it's lost, they have to pay up to half, or they
Right.
have to pay half.
Right.
All right?
How many of those do we have this last school
That's what I
year?
was wondering.
In terms of stolen
Stolen.
versus lost,
Well, police report stolen,
very few.
less than 5?
Yeah, most of them are lost, and a lot of times
Okay.
they'll get found a week later. Sometimes they turn up in very interesting places, but we've had a couple that are lost.
But if they-
So
If a student comes in and says, I lost it, you guys have the capability of basically shutting down electronically that
correct.
access to that, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
remotely, yes.
Good.
So.
Then they get found,
And,
probably.
anytime that happens, the tech representative at the building goes to the principal, so it's case-by-case basis. We go, hey, this kid said he lost it, does he get a new one? Does he go to ISS and use that computer? What do you want us to do? Because we're technology, we're support, it's, if the principal says give the kid a Chromebook every time, and it's a 6th Chromebook, and if he breaks it, he gets a 7th, then I'm gonna do it. So it's a building level issue on whether they do that or not. And usually they're pretty good about, the principals are really good about coming up with their own policy and enforcing it and working with the parents and so.
Okay, so we got a long agenda tonight, so I'm gonna get this off high center. So your amendment then to this policy, Lou, number one, you want to make a motion, no tech fee.
Right.
And your amendment to this document would be under repair, under the overview of the parent guardian financial responsibilities, under the repair would be $50 or actual repair cost, whichever's lowest. Under the lost/repairs exceeding total cost, it would be half of replacement cost. And under stolen, it would be file a police report, and there would be no cost, as long as they file a police report. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a motion?
Yes.
All right. Motion on the floor.
I can second it.
Okay, seconded by Olivia. Does everybody understand the motion? Okay, so just to clarify then, we're voting on,
No,
voting on
The one-to-one check policy.
the one-to-one policy, and the use policy kind of goes with this.
Right, and that's.
The staff and the.
Right, and that's the
Okay.
same one that we've had historically. for
Okay, so
years.
this is kind of all one swoop then.
Right,
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
All right. Any further clarifications needed?
Let's repeat that one more time.
Okay, so this is a motion that's going to adopt the no technology fee option
For the one-to-one.
for the one-to-one purpose. And then under the repair section, it's going to be $50 or actual repair cost, whichever's lowest. Under the lost and repairs exceeding total cost row, it'll be up to one half of the replacement cost, the way that's worded. And then if it's stolen, as long as a police report is filed, there'll be no cost to the parent guardian. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. And all those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Let's take a roll call vote. Okay, Mr. Castle?
Nay.
Mr. Ray?
No.
Nay.
I was nay, so go ahead.
yeah.
Yay? 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 And
Nay.
yay. Did you say nay or yay?
Nay.
Okay, all right. Yeah, 5-2. Okay, 5-2, nay. So now we need a new motion.
I motion we adopt no tech fee one-to-one technology devices for students. Repair cost stays at 75 or actual repair cost, whichever is lowest. Lost repair is full replacement cost, and stolen is file a police report and full replacement cost.
So just as it reads?
Yes.
No tech fee? Okay. New motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries 5-2. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that discussion.
Thank you.
And I would like at some time in the future to see if we could still keep seniors getting
Okay.
the computers.
All right. All right, so now we're moving on to 8C, which is the social emotional update from Mr. McGee.
Okay. Part of our strategic plan and also a goal in our KESA accreditation, which is the Kansas Education Systems of Accreditation, is, and also a state goal, is social emotional learning. So it's a big emphasis for the school district. So I'm going to talk about what's going on there in terms of goals that we're setting and things that we're doing in the building and district. A lot of you have probably heard the term trauma-informed as a big educational buzzword, and just kind of go over a little bit of what trauma-informed is and what you're hearing with that is there's been a lot of research and focus on what's called adverse childhood experiences and kids who have been exposed to trauma and how it's understanding the brain science of that. And the best way I ever heard it described was, if you're going through a forest and a bear jumps out, your brain goes into fight, flight, or freeze, and endorphins are released, and we understand that. But what if you're a 5-year-old child and you live with that bear? And every day your brain is in constant fight, flight, or freeze. It alters the way that your brain is shaped and how it functions. So what we've seen over the years is kids exposed to trauma, their brains are in a constant state of crisis. And we're seeing more and more of that. There's also a lot of research to suggest that screen time increases have altered brains. And so it's been a big movement in education to move away from the traditional mindset to more of a trauma-informed mindset. And what does that look like? You kind of looked a little bit is the punitive discipline, and I'm sure a lot of you recognize that when you went to school. The teacher is always right, and it's very authoritarian, and there are strict rules, and maybe there's some yelling at kids, and this is the way, and what's wrong with you, and the restorative trauma-informed approach is more built on empathy and understanding and relationships, and understanding that sometimes the brain science, that they're not deciding to act bad, that it's the brain science part of that. So that's a big movement in education. We've done a lot of training with our staff and professional development on the brain science and adverse childhood experiences. As teachers, it can be very frustrating on the professional development side of this, because when you go to a cooperative group training or a reading strategy training on professional development, they're going to teach you step by step, this is how you do that strategy. With trauma and adverse childhood experiences, social emotional, it's not that simple. Each child is kind of unique and different, so it's a lot of theory and maybe not as much application. So it can be it's changing that mindset with our teachers, and sometimes that's a long process. As I've spent a year now almost in the school district, going around and seeing all the great things going at the different buildings, I think in terms of social emotional, all of our buildings do a lot of really, really good things, really far advanced than most school districts in the area or the state, most likely. I think in terms of strategically aligned, I think we need to do a little bit more there. What we do at Lincoln, and when kids transfer to Garfield and they transfer to Guthridge, we need to have those systems and supports in place so kids are successful immediately, and we're helping that transitions. And what we're doing in terms of systems is similar as it goes throughout our schools and our systems as we go through. So we've had some discussions with counselors and admin on what that's going to look like, and what are our goals, and what do our kids need in the area of social emotional, because the pandemic has really greatly intensified those needs as well. So just kind of looking at a framework of what's going on in different buildings and how we can communicate that almost more in a monthly meeting. I love that we have weekly admin meetings with our teams. It's something I think Lori does very well. Communication is very good. We're all on the same page. We need to do that more with our counselors, and our teachers in the area of social emotional, so we stay on the same page moving through. As also in your goal this month was the KISA accreditation. So we report to the outside visitation team in the state areas that we're making in growth, what are our goals for growth, and how we're going to meet those goals. One of those goals for our district is social emotional learning, and this is the way that we've written our goal. Parsons District Schools will embed social emotional learning and preventative restorative practices for students in all schools to show a 5% growth in the area of self-efficacy and self-management by the end of our strategic plan, which is next year. Where did we get self-efficacy and self-management? Well, we talked about the panorama surveys, which we surveyed students in a variety of areas in social emotional to kind of identify where are our needs. You can see with our secondary students, our lowest area is self-efficacy. We've done pretty good from fall to spring in areas of staying stable. Usually your spring scores are lower. Kids are excited at the beginning of school year. End of the year, they're more ready for summer, so you usually have a dip in scores there. With our elementary students, our lowest area was self-management. So this was kind of our baseline data, targeting the areas that we need to improve, and those are the areas we're going to target for improvement for the next year. Action steps, how are we going to get there? So we've had social emotional curriculum at the elementary and middle school for a few years. We added it at the high school this last year. So this is just like reading and math. Our teachers are teaching social emotional lessons with second step, pre-K through 8th grade, and then the core projects, a little bit more high school set up. The lesson plans are not as elementary based, so they're more appropriate, age appropriate. But there's social emotional lessons being taught by our teachers in our buildings, which we think is important. It's a tier 1 approach. Monthly social emotional trainings to staff. So through our Wednesday collaborations, one of those has been devoted to social emotional learning. As we talk about changing the traditional mindset, it can't be one professional development that we have once a year. It's got to be a regular conversation with our teachers. It's that important. So we really want to devote one of those a month to social emotional learning. It's an area that when surveyed by our teachers, they want more information on the brain science, on the social emotional learning, on the behavior disorders and the mental health that they're seeing in the kids. They see the value in that. Transform our ISS to recovery room process with restorative practices. So we've started this at middle school and high school in beginning stages this year. I'm sure you all are aware of an ISS when you went to school, where most of the time the kids just sat in there, and we're kind of changing that process to where restorative practice means they reflect on what happened. They maybe identify what triggered them into that behavior. They are kind of thinking about how they would handle that situation better. And the important part, I think, of it is when they're in the recovery room, they process with a counselor or an adult that didn't have a dog in the fight, that can kind of guide them through that process. It's based on a point system. So in the past, you would have been maybe assigned 3 days of ISS. Now you're assigned 1 to 3 days recovery room. If you go in there, you get your work done, you process the trigger sheet, you process the restorative practices, you meet with the counselor, and you've done all that, and you're kind of reflecting on it well, then you're out after a day. Once you've reached your points, you're out. If you're not, we'll try again day 2 as we move through.
So we're doing that currently?
We're doing it in middle school and high school right now, and it's gone very well. So we're going to transition that to all schools next year. Increased frequency of student concern meetings. I'm going to talk about those in a little bit more in detail. Add care teams to all buildings to provide preventative plans for our tier 3 at-risk students. So basically a care team is a sit team for behavior. So if students are displaying a lot of behaviors, we're going to get our best and brightest at the table. We're going to look at the function of the behavior, and we're going to come up with interventions and plans to hopefully make them successful. Let's look at be proactive instead of reactive all the time. How can we make them successful? And a lot of times, I think, especially at secondary, they can be part of that plan. What would you work for? What supports do you need? What problems are you having? And how can we help you do better? And involving them in the plan and involve the parents at the plan as well. Teachers would have input. We have a process set up to do that as well at all our buildings. Implements a strategically aligned discipline plan with restorative practices, grades 4 through 12. So you've got your handbooks tonight, and when you read through those, the discipline portion of that changed. We need to get everybody on the same page. So we've had a lot of meetings with administrators. We kind of started Guthridge up because that's when the behaviors, we start to see that a little bit more. And we've talked as administrators on when we have these instances, how are we handling those? What's the consequences? So we created more of a matrix for this is what's going to happen. So we can get students on the same page, teachers on the same page, administrators in central office and school board all on the same page. And we're going to, restorative piece, we don't want to out-of-school kids. We want to make sure the punishment fits the crime, or the consequence fits the crime, and cut down on the out-of-school suspension. So we want to put things in place that are effective. So that's in your handbook part of that, and it's more strategically aligned, so it's similar from Guthridge to the middle school to the high school, and we can teach some of those expectations, and the teachers know what's going to kind of happen when these behaviors occur.
But it's developmentally appropriate.
Yes.
Based on the age.
Absolutely. Transition ETR recovery room process to all elementary buildings. The past practices, we've had the ETR, which is the early transition room at Guthridge. So if kids displayed, really tough behaviors, they went to the ETR room at Guthridge, whether they were a kindergartner, whether they were a second grader, that's always been at Guthridge. Then they start transitioning back. We're going to move that recovery room process, kind of an ETR, to each individual building. So kids would stay in their home school. So kindergartners would no longer be going over to Guthridge. We would handle that at Lincoln. We would individualize those supports through the recovery room process, transitions in or out, or if they need to be in the recovery room more, as they did with the ETR, that would be at each home school, which I think would be much better for parents. That's part of the things that I hear is ETRs, they don't like, they're out of their home school. And then Kelly Bedore would oversee all of those, and we would have support at each building with admins and care teams being a big part of, let's develop the proactive plan for this student where they're going to be most successful.
Because it could be they could go to the classroom for instruction, but they need to go back to the ETR for additional work. Or it could be that they can handle lunchtime with their peers, so they could go to lunch with their peers, or recess, or those other kinds of relationship building with their peers.
And we see so much the kids do fine in the structured environment. When it's unstructured, they can't handle it.
Right.
So we can build those supports where they're in class for the structured time, in class for the instruction. When it's more independent work time, we can move them to where they're going to be successful.
The instruction piece is huge.
It is.
And what we're finding now, as years of reflecting, when kids get to middle school, there isn't an elementary transition room where they go and they stay all day. There isn't, because the VSP is designed more where they're going to the classroom and getting instruction, and then they're coming back. So it's been very difficult for our students that have been in ETR a considerable amount of time to make a successful transition to middle school. So we think by doing it in each of these buildings and allowing those transitions to just be fluid and the movement as necessary in each building as they go through, they'll be more successful when they get to the middle school
And
as
it's
well.
very similar throughout our system. So that's
Right.
that strategically aligned piece to that. We think the kids will understand it, the staff will understand it as they go through.
And parents will too, so.
And as a parent, I would want my kid at their home school as well. The multi-tiered system of support, I'm going to talk about in more detail. Increased teaching on procedures and expectations in all buildings and classrooms. So with that brain science, kids need predictable routines and crystal clear expectations. So that's something we're going to talk about with all of our teachers, detailed classroom procedures. And as a building administrators, we need to do a better job of teaching procedures and expectations at the beginning of the year and training the students so that they know what to expect. And that's part of tied to the brain science of that. Implement intentional supervision plan at all buildings. We've talked a lot with administrators on just reducing violent instances being a goal all throughout. We could look at where are incidents happening and where was the breakdown in supervision. And our supervision, are we up, are we moving, are we spread out at recesses, do we have adequate supervision in the lunchroom? We know where are high incident times, we need to make sure that we have good supervision at those areas so that we can intervene before we have major behavior instances. So that's something we're going to be working with all staff as well. I talked about the student of concern meetings. So This was something that is a big movement from Jim Sporleader, that was a big national guru on trauma-informed. It's arming our staff. So we have meetings once a month for students who may be experiencing trauma, may be experiencing things in their life that we need to arm our teachers with. We don't always go into a lot of detail they may not need to know. We talk a lot about confidentiality in these meetings, but it's more of a handle with care. The student is going through some things, and then we assign check-ins throughout the day. So we assign a couple teachers that may, when they see that student, they're supposed to, hey, how you doing? Is your day going okay? Do you need anything? So we're making sure we build those relationships with those kids while they go through this traumatic, or while they're experiencing things in their home life that maybe aren't good, and we build those supports. But it also builds that empathy that's so crucial with our staff. Teachers have big hearts, and when they hear, these kids are going through some things, they're going to handle them with care a little bit more and empathy in our interactions. And I'll go through the care team with it. So we'll identify and we'll assign check-ins throughout the day. I mentioned confidentiality is a big part of that going through. This is an example of a student concern agenda with fake names, as you can see on there, of how we would set up emotional concerns, assign contacts. You can see there's already a couple signs. So you may have a student who's on more than one SOC agenda, as they have maybe a lot going on. Sometimes we'll assign daily check-ins, so if we have a concern with a student that maybe doesn't have running water at home or enough to eat or drink, and we're going to make sure we check in to make sure those hierarchy of needs are being met every single day, if that's necessary. New students, too often we get new students and they're coming with some crisis in their lives that we may not know about. So we'll talk about new students with our staff at student of concern meetings. Suicide awareness, so any student who has mentioned suicide in any way, shape, or form, maybe a self-harmer, they're on every single SOC agenda. We're assigning contacts. We're going to make sure we do all we can. We don't want to lose a student and not know that we did all that we could to make sure we're checking in on them regularly.
And all staff are legally bound to report that.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
They're mandated reporters. Updates, so a lot of times if a kid was on a previous SOC and then maybe they were taken into police custody or put in foster care, we'll give our updates to staff. And then my favorite part is our success stories. So we share, maybe some at-risk kids who are doing really well. And we'll share the success stories at our SOCs, which the great part of that is when the staff sees the kid, they'll say, hey, I heard you're doing really good. I heard you made honor roll last month. I heard you haven't had a behavior referral in 2 weeks. That's great, keep it up. And that motivates that student to continue with that. Talked about the recovery room format just a little bit. There's a teachable moment to that. And that's teaching those replacement behaviors, understanding triggers and the restorative pieces. It's based on a point system, and a lot of times they can point out after one day and we can get them back in the classroom. Talk about this. This is kind of, and this was in your packet, what the recovery room, what a day in the life looks like, what supports and how we set up the point system. And then each hour they can earn points by getting their work done or behavior in the classroom or in the recovery room, whether they did the restorative essay or restorative questions, and how they can earn their points to make sure that they get out in one day if they so choose. I talked about the trigger worksheet, the restorative questions. The students will fill these out in the morning. When they're filled out, the counselor will be notified that this is complete, and then they'll come get them and kind of talk through what happened and kind of coach that teachable moment with that. I think this works really good because, sometimes our administrators try to do that, but they're the one assigning the consequence. So sometimes the kids don't want to have that conversation with them. Counselor or the adult processing this, they didn't put them there. They didn't really have a dog in the fight, and they're kind of talking through them, and that conversation seems to go a little better in that regard. Talked about the care team. So it may look a little different in each building, but the principals are going to kind of assemble their behavioral experts. They're going to look at, it's going to be data driven. So we're going to look at what types of referrals we're seeing, what attendance looks like and tardies, maybe visits to the nurse, a variety of data grades to help us come to what's the function of the behavior, what supports or interventions are needed, and how can we make this kid successful. And we may need to redo that, meet again from time to time, but be proactive, not reactive with these students. And our Tier 3 students are typically in the juvenile justice system, maybe at risk for a long-term suspension or expulsion, have 20 or more referrals. So these are our more severe cases. Kind of the procedure we've kind of agreed upon for what those care teams and what that data-driven process will look like as it goes through. I talked about multi-tiered systems of support. We do this with academics. Teachers understand this a little bit better. We do this with reading and math. And Tier 1, all students get those things. Tier 2 with at-risk, those students may be lacking age-appropriate social skills. They may be withdrawn, maybe not displaying behaviors, but still at risk. So we need to put in supports to make those kids successful as well. Tier 3, as I mentioned, are more severe behavior, but we're going to look at each building. What do we have in place? Do we have the supports for Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3? Where can we add to? So it may look a little different in each building, but that's part of the process that we're going to move forward with at each building, looking at the tiered supports for at-risk youth as we go through. And you kind of see Tier 1, a lot of it is focusing on recognizing those kids for the behaviors that we want to see. So much we spend 95% of our time on those 5% of kids that are causing us big headaches. We need to spend time recognizing the kids who are doing things right and reward them for those. So adding in more of these students of the week, positive behavior referrals, positive contact to parents, and building those into our systems for social emotional learning as well. Just a few other things tied to social emotional that I think are strengths of the district. We're one of the first school districts in the state of Kansas to receive the Mental Health Intervention Grant, which we work with Labette Center for Mental Health, where we have therapists at the schools for our kids. It's a referral process. The parents fill out the referral, but they can see a therapist at school, which is outstanding. So many of our kids who needed therapy before, their parents or whoever weren't getting them to those appointments, so they weren't getting that regular therapy that they need. In addition to that, CHC-SEK has also provided a therapist in the past, so we have multiple therapists in the schools for our kids getting the mental health needs that they need. Communities and schools, we have at middle school and high school, and they really do a great job of that Maslow hierarchy of needs. What do our kids need? Do they need clothes? Do they need things to take care of that? So they're a big part of that. Jobs for America's Graduate at our high school, we've talked about that before, really works with our at-risk youth at the high school. Monthly safety meetings, we collaborate with DCF and mental health monthly with our administrators through Zoom meetings. Counselor to student ratio, we are in compliance. It's suggested one counselor for every 250 students. So we're in pretty good shape there. Always could use more, but that's in ratio. The Viking time advisory period that we have at secondary schools, I think, is really good because they build relationships and they stick with that advisory teacher through middle school, through high school. They kind of take that parent role. When you were a kid, when you got home from school, did you get your homework? Did you remember to talk to this teacher? A lot of our kids don't have that support at home, so that advisory teacher kind of takes that role in that program. We have therapy dogs throughout the district, and I've never been in a district that had that, and it's wonderful. We even enjoy it. So, and I noticed I've been in the buildings, the kids really enjoy that as well. Panorama, we talked about before, kind of helps that care teams and those counselors triangulate the things going on. So attendance, behavior, social, emotional, we can kind of triangulate and look at, trends and where kids need supports as they go through our systems, and makes it data-driven as we look at social emotional, which has been hard to measure with data for so many years. I know I talked really fast. If there are questions I can answer for you.
Is the plan to open an ETR room at Lincoln and Garfield then for this, like 22?
Yes,
Oh, great. That is wonderful. And do we have enough staff to?
So we're currently looking at that from the staff we had at ETR and Guthridge distributing. So we'd like to have 2 people and then Kelly Bador overseeing those 3 rooms. So we're looking at that to make sure we have enough staff. The plan is to have 2 classified and then Kelly Bador overseeing the instruction at the 3 buildings.
I think that's awesome to have it at each school.
I agree.
Well, I talked with Jeff for about an hour today because I had a lot of questions and we had a really good conversation. And I must say, this is probably the best program I've ever seen and I've done a lot of research on mental health and social emotional learning. And one of the things that we agreed on is we've got to get away from this pound of flesh attitude. We've got to always punish someone. Our teachers need to be trained on how to become more empathetic, caring, listening teachers. You've got to listen to these kids because it's so easy to take things personally. And one of the sayings that my wife always comes up with is, kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you're building up that trust anchor. And right now, school systems, hospital systems, parents, teachers, we're overwhelmed. COVID has overwhelmed us. The stress level is high, the anxiety level is high, the suicide rates are going up. So mental health, social emotional learning, to me, needs to go on the front burner. And I had mentioned Dr. Fred Jones when we were teaching. He came for 2 days and gave us seminars on some of the tools that we needed for positive classroom discipline. Management by walking around, proximity, there's all kinds of different tools. And I don't know that some of these educational colleges are teaching this. From what I know, one of the local colleges is not doing a very good job. They need to get better at that. However, the things that we have, I think we will be a model for the state of Kansas.
I agree.
And the other good thing is, I think you have a lot of good buy-in from your staff. That's the most important part.
And this is systematic now. We've been working on this a long time.
We have, and that's just it, we have done it a long time, and so when Jeff came
Yeah,
and saw all the things
Yeah.
that we were doing, he was
I mean, we would get
impressed.
professional development, and then you'd come back and some people would use it and some people wouldn't, and you'd forget,
That's the
and
problem.
it is. And
You're
so
exactly right. That is the issue.
That is
We
the
do have
problem.
some bad apples, and the problem with the bad apples is they just need to move on.
Yes.
Because when you're talking about these things, all it has is one bad apple impact several kids' lives in a day, and it just spirals. And we just have staff that just can't get on board. And I just-
They're not
I-
empathetic.
But this
No, I
also
just want them to
helps
move on.
the good
Exactly. I
staff
do
keep
too.
it in their head, what we're supposed, to be doing. It's just reinforcement of what works, and
And it's not just USD 503. I talked
No.
to teachers at Osage Beach, and they have the same problem.
Well, sure.
It's all over.
I'm very familiar with a lot of the school districts around here, and a lot of them do second step or do lessons, but they don't do much more than that. So I really think our plan is elaborate, and I think it's applying that trauma-informed practice throughout, and I think it'll be very successful. We're real excited about it.
sounds,
Thanks, Jeff.
yes,
Any
a lot
further
of work.
questions for Mr. McGee? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that nice, thorough discussion. Item 9.0, action to accept donations to schools.
Okay, that's on page 43 of your packet. So if we get started, there were 3 donations from the public library for craft bags to Lincoln, one for $25 and 2 different donations for $20, totaling $65 there. At Garfield and Dethridge, there were no donations this month. The middle school strategic partners donated 8th grade field trip charter buses, which was a restricted donation valued at $3,900. Labette Bank made a restricted donation for the new scoreboard at the middle school, $6,100. And the Parsons Area Community Foundation made a restricted donation for the scoreboard, $5,044.70, totaling $15,044.70. There were a number of donations at the high school in the month of April. We had cans for Kansas Heroes, care of Warren Vincent, an honor flight donation, $100. Chris and Ella Lubers made a donation to the honor flight, $500. Strategic Partners made a donation to honor flight, $1,000. Kay Phillips made a donation to honor flight, $25. SEK Mini Storage, care of Kenneth and Doris Stice, made a donation to honor flight for $50. Tony and Debbie Phillips made a $100 donation to honor flight. Tyler and Tanya Phillips made a $100 donation to honor flight. SEK Auto Sales made a $100 donation to honor flight. The Wall Funeral Home made a $200 donation for honor flight. There was anonymous donations for honor flight valued $280. And Jim and Priscilla Lubers made a donation to honor flight for $50. Bowen Pharmacy made a $1,000 donation to the football program. Labette Health made a $200 donation to the football program, and there were anonymous donations for the football program totaling $248. Peggy Whitert made a $20 donation to the FCCLA program. Chris and Ella Lubers made a $500 donation to the FCCLA program. Strategic Partners made a $1,500 donation to FCCLA program. John and Andrea Hetlinger made a $500 donation to the FCCLA program. Clemens Insurance made a $25 donation to FCCLA. Roger Duroni made a $250 donation to FCCLA, and there was an anonymous donation for FCCLA valued at $60. The swim team received a donation from Jocks Niche valued at $129.67. So the April donations at the high school were $6,937.67. So the total school district donations for the month of April, $22,047.37. I recommend that you approve those, and we thank the generous community that we have that provides that.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded to accept that nice list of donations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 9.1, action to approve publication of the 21-22 amended budget.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Tony.
Each year, we have to budget quickly, and sometimes during the year, we have expenses that are approved that we have not accounted for. And sometimes we get, with that, even if we do not project exactly or maybe a little bit under, we get the opportunity to receive more state aid. And that's what happened with the Capers Fund. We budget a certain amount of salaries. They do some sort of calculation that only they really know about. And then they tell us that we have to either republish or we're fine. And we have to republish this time, but we do get additional money, $20,575 to be exact. And we had to do at least that. It is a little bit higher what I chose to republish to allow for any changes, and also because it was an even 2%, which made the calculation simple. So I would like you all to approve that. If you have questions.
So you are publishing for hire, like maybe $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 more?
About 4,000.
Okay.
About 4,000 higher. I did ask when I called the state if it would be a problem if it could come in any higher than that, and she said it wouldn't be any higher than what it was. But because the form is actually done by the state through our budget software, when I go in there, if I tried to get it exact, it would be a rounding nightmare. And so in order to save time, I just said 2%. It gave us a little bit of $4,000 more. At the end of the year, we close it out, it's done, and then we start for next year.
And that is just flow-through money. It comes in at midnight and goes out at midnight '01.
That is correct.
Long enough to take a picture with a big check is what I like to say. That is correct. And we have to increase our expenditures in order to offset the receipt, because the fund has to be zero, and I'm going to try not to talk too much. So if you have questions, let me know.
Any further questions?
It's good news.
Ms. Phillips?
It's good news.
Okay, need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to republish the Capers portion of the budget.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to amend that budget, publication of amended budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
Now
you.
we're moving to action to approve ESSER plan.
All right.
Projects.
So included in your packet this evening is the actual application with those questions that I've been working on, where we talked about all the stakeholders that we interviewed and surveys that were sent out and how we plan to use the money. It's all there. So, and Tanya and I, we've been working on the spreadsheet that goes with it. And after this meeting, then we'll be able to get that finished, so then we can hit the button and submit it all. So there is, with our ESSER $3, there is $4,663,635. That's the total allocation. And if you remember, we talked about 20% has to be set aside for learning loss. And so on your paper that looks like this, so this is the actual application. And on the back, it gives you how much the allocation is and how much the 20% would be. Okay, so that's where I'm getting, so that's That's what that is. The paper she just handed out is just the gist, okay? It's the summary sheet. So for those learning losses, the things that we've written into this plan that we'd like to do are the summer school programming, the after-school programming, the professional development, which is the letters training, the materials, the supplies, the stipends, more trauma-informed professional development, mental health first aid, we'd like to include some of that. So pay for the social emotional curriculum and Panorama, which is the data warehouse that we use to get those reports. We'd like to continue the classroom reduction teacher at Guthridge. Remember when we went to 5 at each grade level? We'd like to use ESSER money, ESSER 3 to do that, to continue that. The ETR aides, interventionists, and our full-time subs. In the past, we've had 2, and then we had COVID, and so then we had 5, and then this year we had 7. So there'd be a number of those that would be paid. And I'll tell you, when I started writing the plan and started meeting with the groups, I was really hesitant to say, let's fund new positions. Because this is grant money, and then in a couple years, we want to make sure we can absorb it in the general fund. However, every group that I've talked to, with the exception of students, they didn't say, they said they needed more help. They weren't as specific as others have said, we need a social worker. We don't have a social worker. What about a social worker? We don't have an academic counselor or advisor per se that can help our secondary students that have been out of the system, make sure that they're there for attendance, that they're earning those credits, that they're getting those applications into college, that they're getting scholarships applied for, and all of those things. And so this plan would include those 2 new positions.
An academic advisor could also help with our IPS.
Right.
There's a lot of what we're doing with that. I think is really good stuff, but we need more help with that.
This is for
Individual plan of study. So that student-led conference where they're planning for their post-secondary success and what they need to get there.
So when we talked earlier, this was like the college orientation class that I had for second semester juniors, first semester seniors. But is this just for the high school?
I would think that they could be part into middle school. It just depends. Because if we have them take on some of the individual plan of study parts too.
And this is a certified teacher?
These 2 would be certified positions.
And why just limit it to 1 social worker? Why not up to maybe 2 or 3?
Well, and we could add 2 or 3 in the plan. It would just depend on one if we could find the applicants, but there's nothing to say.
Hire 3 more nurses and 2 more.
Well, those are the same people that we've had for the last 3 years. So because since COVID started, which, when was that? A long time ago.
2020.
Yesterday in 2020. We, at one point, we just had the 1 nurse and then 1 nurse's aide. And so what we did once COVID hit is we used that initial COVID money to hire 3 additional ones
All right,
to
and the
put in the
COVID
buildings.
money ends
September the 30th of 2024.
24.
Now, there's talk that it's going to be pushed out, but right now, that's
Extended.
extended, yes.
Don't we technically have 1 nurse
We currently have
3 nurses aides?
We currently
Yeah,
have
they're
1 nurse
nurses'
and
aides.
4 nurses aides.
Okay, but at each elementary school, it's an aide
That
in
is
middle
correct.
school.
But it is a certified nurse's aide.
Right, okay,
Or
just
a
making
med
sure. But we're rehiring, it's to rehire those same
The
positions.
nurses' aides.
Yes. Uh-huh. And the other thing included in the ESSER 3 plan is the retention and incentive pay. That's a great way to reward folks for sticking it out and staying, because it's hard to find teachers and staff everywhere. The other thing are the capital projects. And this is where a big chunk of the money goes. And we've gone through and taken closed and sealed bids. We've opened those bids. All of that was sent to you last Monday. That was the huge stack. In case you didn't have anything to do all week or this weekend, you could have read through all of those. And our facilities team met and looked through all of those things and then recommended these bids. And so I've made that for you. And you'll notice that all of those, with the exception of the roof, can be used with ESSER 3 money, can be applied for, and the roof, however, cannot. I don't know how I could get that. I don't know.
Get pretty creative.
I don't know.
Let too many germs in.
Yeah, I mean, and so,
So this action plan includes the social worker and the
Academic counselor, yes.
But not the substitute teachers nor the nurses' aides?
Right, because it's not included under the learning loss or the capital projects. It's still included in the plan. It's just not under those two new categories.
Because we
This is
still
a
have money to pay
Because we,
for them.
right,
Right.
I'm sorry?
Technicality?
right,
Okay.
yeah. Mhm. And the capital projects are big line items.
This is way better
Is that better
than, yeah.
than all of that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
It's beautiful.
Working on that, okay.
Yeah, than the 85
Because I'm trying to
pages.
give you the information, and not too much and not enough, and,
So is the ESSER application, is it essentially a pass or fail? Or are they going to be able to pick and choose and say, yes, we're approving this, but not this and that?
look, Mike's laughing over there. As an interim superintendent, he feels the pain. What they may do, they may say, well, tell us more about this, or help me understand how is that tied to COVID? They could pick out individual things on anyone's plan, and the reality is they will. But then the reality is that I'm going to go back and say, okay, here's how it's tied to COVID. And if you look, when I did the application, I thought the learning loss is what they're really going to have a lot of questions on, I think. And so I tried to make sure that I've attached supporting research with each of these things that we're going to add. So, and if they come back and say they want some more, I'll find some more. We can continue to look and get it tweaked. So.
But theoretically, we could possibly be on the hook for some of this ESSER allocated money.
Be on the hook, meaning?
If we decide to spend $88,687 in environmental sensors, and they say, no, we're not going to do that. Then
And
we
if they
would-
say no, and I can't talk them into how that's related to fresh air, humidity, and all of those different things, it's possible. I think the majority of them they're going to approve in the end. There are a couple of these on this capital projects that if for some reason, that one being one, if they said absolutely not, you cannot convince us, even though other districts it has been approved. There's also funding through Safe Schools. There's that grant that we could apply for that. And we do have $1.1 million in capital outlay. So I would feel comfortable with the environmental sensors, that HVAC at the Hughes, paying for a couple of those projects and those intercoms out of that capital outlay that we have. It would still leave over $500,000 because we would separate intercoms and access controls.
Yeah, that's a chunk.
It is a chunk. However,
But we've been talking about it for a long time.
We've been
Oh, I
talking
know,
about it.
all these, and that's the
Yeah.
whole thing. I'm on the
Right.
facilities committee, so all these things
Right.
have to be done, and that's something I would like to convey. It's like, we've been kicking the can down the road.
Right.
We've just got an opportunity
To get it
to
done.
hopefully get federal funding for these things that really have to happen anyway.
right, they do. And so it's a matter of using the federal funds we have now, and I'll continue to work with the ESSER people, and we'll continue to toss it around until we can get it the goal is to get the whole 4.6 million. I don't want to leave any money on the table. Because if we decide, nah, let's just wait, then in a few years when it's an absolute crisis and you have to have 1.8 million for an HVAC at the middle school, are you going to do a lease purchase? Are you going to do a bond? We have the money available. I think we need to, this would be my recommendation. And I'll work really hard to get him to accept it.
Yeah, and I appreciate your efforts because, yeah, some of it is a little creative, so.
It is. And, the last reporting meeting that we had, not today's session, but last week, there were superintendents that said, all kidding aside, can we just give the money back? That's because the reporting and the,
Really?
absolutely.
They are rich schools then?
No.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
No.
It's getting really tough.
It's, for really small schools, I think,
Oh.
the amount of work that this is, when it's all over and done, I'm going to find out what a superintendent really does, because I feel like a whole lot of what I do is ESSER. And if I didn't have Tanya, there's no way I could do it. She does a wonderful job. And there were moments.
Remember that.
Absolutely, I do remember that, I know it. And there were moments last week when we watched the new reporting thing that I thought, oh my goodness, oh my. But we're going to get it figured out. Absolutely, we'll just take one little bite at a time. But
They're just making schools jump through a lot of hoops to get the money.
Right.
And I will guarantee you, Lori will get some turnbacks, some requests for more information,
Questions for you.
and maybe 2 or 3 times.
Right.
It will happen.
It will. And then they'll just turn it back and ask questions, and we'll just go looking for the resources. Yes, Olivia?
I have a dumb question. Tell me about this Hughes, David. I didn't know we were, the Hughes building, is that little building over there at the middle school? We're getting ready to do what? Redo it?
The roofing and, well, that one as well as the HVAC.
Is that where they just go in and change into football equipment?
No,
What are
but they also,
using it for?
We have a weightlifting class in there and wrestling. And so they have a class in
Is
there.
that new?
Well, when I was the principal at the middle school 6 years ago, we started we've had weightlifting in there. And so they call it strength and conditioning. So they have a class in there.
And we're putting a scoreboard over at the middle school?
The scoreboard is in the gym. That scoreboard is
Oh,
20-some years old.
oh, okay.
That's the old one, yeah.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
yeah. What's
Yeah.
that? These things I did not know.
Okay, yeah. The HVAC is to have air conditioning in that strength and conditioning.
All I've ever seen them do is go in there
And change
and
clothes.
change clothes.
And they do that too, but yeah, they do that too. You're
So I was
right.
just trying to figure it out.
You think, why air
The weight
conditioning?
room in there is pretty nice. I hadn't seen that either in several
What?
years. The weight room they have in there is
That's,
pretty
yeah.
nice.
And that's Tyler's done the last 4 years. He's replaced pieces of equipment with other pieces and had things upholstered, and it does look nice. So,
Good deal.
it is good. So,
It is, especially when you see other schools and the facilities that they have,
Yeah.
that we don't have. And so if we can make what we do have look really good, it makes, you know, a difference, I think.
and that was something that came up on the kids when they said things that they want. More than one. There were a number of them, 50-some%. Could we have air conditioning in the weight and conditioning room? Because it's really hot in there. So that was some of their input. So this is what I've got for the ESSER 3 plan. And when it's all finished, we will have requested the $4.6 million, and we'll work through those processes when they turn it back and ask questions and all of that.
Make a motion to approve the ESSER plan with the capital projects as presented tonight.
everybody's aware about the capital outlay on the middle school roof, but I would second it.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the plan with the capital projects portion, as noted by Mr. Ray, the middle school roof does take, $583,000 out of the capital outlay. It's necessary evil for this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to our mill levy. So we have a half mil increase for the rec commission. I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought Tanya was here. No.
A half mil increase for the Recreation Commission, employee benefit and special liability. As you know, that their funds go through us, and so we need action to increase that mill levy for that purpose by half mil.
I'll make a motion to.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to increase that mill levy by half mil for the rec center. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. 9.4, first reading of the plethora of handbooks.
There is a
you got them.
plethora in a manila envelope. You've received all of those. So this is just for you to take home and read for the next month. And if you have questions and things, please just let me know as you go along. Make little notes and call Jeff or I so we can visit as we go. They will be approved. They'll be for approval next month.
We board members have to read these minimum 3 times. So they have it read.
Sweet. I'll add it to my 1,200 pages of reading this week.
You can make the book report next time.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'll present.
So do you have any questions about those handbooks?
Probably not
No,
yet.
well, I wouldn't think so. I just thought about maybe the expectation.
Yes, why are there so many?
I have a handbook for
At once.
at one time, so I'll give you an opportunity to kind of process that. All right. Okay. So
9.5, we're going to talk about the plan for safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services.
Okay, I tried to send this about 3 different ways today.
Sorry.
And I guess when I was sending it, with the copy that I sent, it looked like there was a paragraph at the bottom that was highlighted, but appeared that when I sent it, Julie said 2 or 3, it's not highlighted. So I sent it again, and she's like, it's still not highlighted. But when I attached it, when I looked at my attachment, it was highlighted. This is the same, this is what we had to do, if you'll remember, clear back when ESSER 3 was going to be a thing last August, and they told us on a Wednesday, you're going to get the money, but you have to have this plan posted to your website by Friday. And so I spent a whole lot of hours writing this whole plan, and then Greenbush the next day said, oh, here, we have a plan you all can just use, just put your name on it, which we did not do, so ours is not a cookie cutter plan. Part of that is every 6 months, the board just needs to look at it. I just need to make an update or two if there's anything that's applicable to be updated. That's just a part of being in compliance to receive those funds. So when I go through and look, the thing that would be the difference would be the mask mandate. And so all I've done here is added that, I haven't added, I've just changed the language. A mask mandate will be in effect if the positivity rate for COVID-19 district-wide is 1.5% or greater. Then where it says all faculty, staff, students, visitors will be required to wear a mask indoors, all of those things, that is what the policy was before. And then I've put, the policy will be reviewed every 10 days and rescinded when the infection rates in the district fall below 1.5% and make it no longer necessary.
So the board did make any changes within this documentation, it would just have to be reflected every, what'd you say, 6 weeks?
Every 6 months.
Or 6 months? Okay.
Every 6 months.
Okay.
So in 6 months, if we make a change between now and 6 months from now, it'll be reflected in this when we change it. So I just need for it to be approved, so it's documented in the minutes of the meeting, and then we'll put the new link up on the website, because this has been on the website the whole time. So if you pull it up, there's a little blue banner right under the Viking that says, Plan for Safe Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Services. Just click on it, and it gives it right to you.
Okay, we need a motion to approve that then.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the plan for safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services as discussed by Ms. Ray. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 9.6, action on full-time substitute teachers for the 2023 school year.
Okay, so we currently have 7 full-time substitutes. 5 of them have gotten full-time teaching jobs. So that leaves us with 2. Those are our original 2 that we started with prior to COVID. So my recommendation would be that we add 3 more so that we start the year with 5 full-time substitute teachers. And those 3 positions would be paid for with ESSER funds.
So a total of 5?
So there would be a total of 5. We currently have 7, but
Okay, yeah, scaling down a little bit.
Right.
Okay, I can handle that.
so my recommendation would be we add 5. So that would be those 3.
So
with ESSER.
moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to employ the 5, or at least seek the 5 full-time substitute teachers for 22-23. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 9.7, action on the nurses' aide positions for the next school
Okay,
year.
and this is the same thing. We started with 1 nurse and 1 nurse's aide. We added 3 nurses' aides so that there is a certified nurse aide or nurse at each building. So my recommendation would be that we continue to pay those 3 additional nurses' aides using ESSER funds for the 22-23 school year.
And this is just for the year.
School
Right.
year.
School
Yep.
year.
Yes, for next school year.
Yep.
Mhm.
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to employ those nurses' aides for 22-23. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 9.8, action on textbook fees for the 22-23 school year.
Okay, this is just in plan, and we have not had textbook fees for a number of years because it became an issue with enforcement, but also it was, if the way it was built before was you had a $50 fee if you were a full-price student, middle school, high school, $25 fee, elementary. But if you received a free meal, you had no textbook fees. If you received a reduced meal, the textbook fees were cut about in half. And so what was happening is the same people that were paying for the lunches were also paying for the fees, were also paying for, everything else. And so those were dropped initially after the tornado for a number of years. They were picked back up for a few years because I remember having a middle schooler, a high school, and an elementary kid and writing a check for $125. So that would have been before 2014. And since then, we've not had fees. So
So what's the policy for lost, stolen, or damaged textbooks?
Students have to pay the replacement cost for
Full
this.
price
The,
for used books?
whatever the price is for the book is what they're charged. So if you lose a library book, in order to buy the library book, whatever Rob, when Mrs. Martin then looks it up and says, oh, well, this book will cost $21, or this book will cost $9.85, then that's what they're charged to replace
But
that book.
sometimes we can buy those textbooks used too.
We do a lot of times.
So they're just charged the
Well,
used
that's what I was
rate.
trying to
Right.
clarify.
But it is a replacement cost, whether
Okay,
whether we buy
that's
new or
different.
used.
All right.
Right. So if we can get a used textbook that's $35,
Okay.
they pay $35.
I got you.
So,
Okay, need a motion on that?
I'll move to waive the fees.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded to continue with the no textbook fee for the next school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 9.9 executive session. How much
wait.
time do you think?
What do we have?
Oh, shoot, 9.8A, I'm sorry. We do have the addendum 9.8A, action to move the date of the June board meeting.
So last year when we went through and the board approved holidays, Juneteenth became one of those holidays. That will be celebrated on Monday, June the 20th of this year, is when that is scheduled. So typically, if a board meeting falls on a holiday, like we have Martin Luther King Day or Columbus Day, I think is, or President's Day, typically the board meeting is the following Tuesday. So then it just before this board
21st.
would be the 21st. So if you'd like to do that.
I'll make a motion to have the next meeting in honor of Juneteenth on the 21st of June at 6 o'clock.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded to move our next board meeting, June 21st, 2022, 6 PM. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now we're moved to executive session. What time do you think?
20, if I talk
We
fast.
need a bathroom break.
Yeah, we'll get a bathroom break, and so let's do 25 then. So, okay. So we need a motion on executive session for 25 minutes. We'll take a 5-minute bathroom break as well.
So moved to come back in at, oops,
We'll be in recess to 7:41, and then we'll start then, so it'll be 8:06, 8:11, I guess. No?
I'll move to do that.
19:06, yeah, 8:06, yeah.
It jumped on me and lost it.
Okay. All right. So maybe
Motion.
8:07 by now. All right. So motion,
I make that motion.
okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and that motion is, I would like to read because it's the law. It's been moved and seconded. We're going to executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception in Tacoma and the exception for employment for negotiations in Tacoma at, it'll be 7:42 when we enter. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. It'll be 7:42 when we enter for 25 minutes.
57.
And then we'll be 8:07 whenever we return to this open meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 5-minute bathroom.
Each person. Yeah.
They went to.
Yeah, that was a shot.
It's okay, David. We forgive you.
Your nickname is just.
Okay, we're back in open session. We're moving on to item 9.10, action to approve reemployment of classified staff for 22-23.
Okay, so those staff are listed on page 45 through 47 of your packet. I recommend that they be reemployed for the 22-23 year.
May I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Do they have a syllabus like people that are teaching barbecue? Is there a syllabus, is there something written that this is what?
Oh, for summer school?
Does that make good sense?
Yes, is there like, so for all the different summer school workshops?
Yeah.
Yes, they'll have, I don't know that I have it here, but we do have something that says, here's what we're gonna do, here are the objectives
And
of this.
here's what we're gonna learn.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Because I could teach barbecue over the farmhouse.
You come and teach it here. Well, you can come and teach it here too.
Julia Child.
A lot of that's experience stuff, yeah.
And nothing would be learned, but. good food
But it would be
yeah,
fun.
And it'd be good.
It would be good.
I just wanted.
I'll make a motion after that
All right. That's
clarification.
That's not the barbecue class we're talking about.
No.
Classified staff.
Right.
And we're gonna run transportation, that's correct?
I beg your pardon?
We're gonna run transportation?
For summer school.
Yes, oh, absolutely. And this year we've added routes at each building instead of just having one bus. In order to make it easier, we've added 3 buses. So,
Okay, no.
But that's totally
We're still
separate.
not there to the summer
No.
yet. We're
No.
keep getting us off task. We're
I'm
not
sorry.
there yet.
I'm gonna ask
We're
more
still
questions,
I know,
Jeff.
but we gotta ask them when we get to summer.
Oh, are we there?
No, we haven't got a second on the motion to reemploy the classified staff for next year, then we're going to summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second to reemploy the classified staff for 22-23. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, now we're gonna move on to that motion carries. Now we're gonna move on to 9.11, action to approve summer supplemental assignments.
okay, and so that's on page 48,
All right,
and that's the weights for middle school, high school,
okay.
and driver's ed.
Those are the things we traditionally employ for during the summer.
Those are considered the supplemental assignments, yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so we need a motion to approve those.
I will make a motion to approve.
I second that.
All right, moved and seconded to approve those summer supplemental assignments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now we're down to 9.12, action to approve the summer school assignments.
So this,
I have no questions.
I bet you don't.
I'll make a motion to approve then.
I second it.
Moved and seconded to approve the summer school assignments as printed there. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 9.13, action on personnel.
okay, so we have the following recommendations for employment, and there are 3 listed on your addendum, as well as those that are in the regular agenda. So in the regular agenda, we have Eric Bortz, maintenance tech, effective May the 16th, 2022. Marla Kirkpatrick, food service director, effective July the 1st, 2022. Jennifer Murphy, custodian, effective May the 3rd, 2022. William Perez, groundskeeper, effective May the 9th, 2022. Christopher Scribner, part-time evening custodian, effective May the 4th, 2022. Michaela Anderson, kindergarten, effective the 22-23 contract year. Colton Bellevue, custodian, effective May the 16th, 2022. And Jamie Stover, 4th grade teacher, effective the 22-23 contract year. I recommend you approve those recommendations for employment.
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded to
Let's sing
approve those
this.
recommendations for employment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, the following are resignations from employment. Nicholas Bai, part-time evening custodian, effective April the 26th, 22. Sydney Carnes, 4th grade teacher, effective the end of the 21-22 school year. James Corbett, custodian, effective May the 13th, 2022. Carrie Mathis, high school, middle school art teacher, effective the end of the 21-22 school year. Jordan McBrien, full-time substitute teacher, effective May the 13th, 2022. Daniela Neary. Daniela, right. First grade teacher, effective the end of the 21-22 school year. Mary Shue, preschool aide, effective the end of the 21-22 school year. I recommend that you approve those resignations from
So
employment.
moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve all of those resignations. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. We have no further business on this agenda, so we are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
And one more question. Have we heard anything, will the meals be free this next year, or do we know yet?
What they told us from the FDA is an FDA